Well, hello, welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and this is a special edition of Streaming Idiots, a special Saturday morning edition because, yes, it is morning here in Alabama. It is 11:11 Central Time, which is like 11 minutes after noon Eastern Time. Funny little story, of course. You know, me, time zones, can't get them right. Here it is at 10 till 11 Central Time, and I'm just sitting around enjoying my morning, and my wife says, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be on a show at noon Eastern?" And I said, "Yeah, that's noon Eastern." Wait, that's 10 minutes. So they say it's afternoon in Canada. It's 12:12. So if you're tuning in just now, you're on time. You're not late as usual. We're delighted to have you here. This is actually a simulcast with StreamFEST. StreamFEST Live is a wonderful event that started at 5 a.m. Eastern Time this morning and is sweeping across the world, time zone by time zone, until this evening. I am delighted to be asked to be a part of it. And we've got a time slot at noon today, and then at 3 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. This morning we were going to do a studio tour, and that's going to have to be postponed until a regular date. And then I said, you know, I did just get this brand new box in yesterday. From 2 days ago, from PTZ Optics. And it is a PTZ Optics camera. And I have resisted. It's been sitting around begging me, saying, "Tom, open me. And I've resisted that because I wanted to open it here on the show today. And we can see that it is a PTZ 20X, so that's a 20X zoom, SDI, which means it's not the USB version, GY, which means it's gray, and a G2, which means it's generation 2. So we're going to do that in just a second. So we'll set that off to the side, and you can see that we have a special little cam set up for that one. Nothing fancy. Okay. So big shout out before we go any further to the guys and gals of World of Live Streaming, because they are the hosts of this event today. And they have been plotting and planning probably since they heard about StreamFEST in Atlanta a couple of months ago. And they said, you know, some of us are overseas, some of us are in a different part of the U.S., and we're just not going to be able to get there for StreamCon, because the idea for StreamCon was that you're meeting face-to-face. And they said, well, you know, we've got this great technology. Let's put on a streaming festival and do it all over the world, from all over the world at the same time. What a great idea. What a great idea. This is absolutely going to catch on. And before we know it, it's going to be 24-hour, going all over the world, both hemispheres, and all the major continents. I can't wait to see that. And for those of you that are junkies with this kind of stuff, you know, that's a lot of coffee and Mountain Dew to stay up 24 hours to watch it all. But the good news is, at least I guess, it's being recorded somewhere. So you'll be able to watch it in more manageable chunks. And from what I could tell in tuning into some parts of it this morning, it was really great content. So to Giles and Kenny and Merle and Martin and Rudy, I know I'm going to forget somebody, and oh, come on, Tom, Tommy, and yeah, I'm sure I've forgotten somebody else. Jan, thank you. There we go. This disembodied
Dave.
voice pops in and says, "Tom, these are the ones you forgot." And Dave, that's right. How could I forget Dave? Goodness gracious. And then, you know, their presenters like Jens gave this marvelous presentation this morning about NDI and vMix Call, and I just loved it, and was so proud of how well he did in that broadcast. And then, of course, you know, Mike Latta, who was back there with Noah on the Ark back in the early days of streaming, you know, he dusts off all these treasures that he's had hanging around for a while. and tells us all about it and fills us in on the history. You know, most of us just sort of popped into live streaming in the last decade or so. And Mike says, no, you know, there was life before Streaming Idiots, you know. So hat tip to Mike. And then, of course, on this past Wednesday, we had a special evening time Streaming Idiots show. So the World of Live Streaming guys jumped into my time slot with my knowledge and approval. And Rudy did a magnificent job of producing the show from Belgium that brought in guests like me here in Alabama and Jim Jacobs up the road in Alabama. And Rudy did just a marvelous job, especially for his first time out of the box on that kind of thing. It can be exciting and a little scary. And then after you get past scary, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'll just sleep late and, you know, show up 5 minutes after the show's supposed to start. So hat tip to all you guys. Hat tip to all you guys. So let's see. Let's get to the unboxing, shall we? This is going to be fun. And by the way, in case I forget to mention it, and I won't, but in case I do, coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern this afternoon, we're doing it's kind of an unboxing. You could call it an unbagging, but mostly it's a review of the wireless. What's it called? The wireless HDMI camera transmitter and receiver that Howard Jones has put together, and he sent me the whole kit, and we're actually going to sell it in our store at Eastern Shore Broadcasting. But Howard's going to be on the show this afternoon at 3 o'clock, so you want to tune in for that. He's not a big in front of the camera scenes guy, so you want to make sure you give him a lot of kudos because he does great work behind the scenes. Okay, enough of that. Let's go to this shot, and we'll do a little unboxing here. And this is the PTZ Optics 20X. This is the current version. Let's see. Let's get a little webcam over here so we can see a little better. There we go. Don't pay any attention to the green screen and all the other green stuff behind me. That doesn't exist. Remember, it's green. You can't see it. So neat little latch on this box. This box actually was inside of another box when I received it, so they didn't ship this box. This box is the internal box. And by the way, if you're ever shipping any of this kind of stuff, you want to hang on a second. Let's do something fun. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's go there. Let's go there. And we're just going to put me in the shot. You know, people say Tom doesn't have an ego. Yeah, he does. So let's just put me there, and then we'll blow me up a little bit, and then get me out of the way. That way I can see me. Okay, so somebody shipped me a PC the other day. It was one I built, and it was coming in for a tune-up and a warranty repair. Something that they had broken that they wanted me to fix, and unfortunately they single boxed it, and they put in 5 little pieces of air pack, and it came in almost destroyed. It made my heart sink. Okay, here we go. So the first thing we get when we open up is we get this great manual, and frankly there's only one page that I ever read in the manual. Yes, I do read the manual. And somewhere in here, let's find it real quick, is the page that tells us the important stuff, which is which setting to set the camera on to get the video rate that you want, the bit rate and the resolution. And come on, Thomas. We may have to look at it later if we can't find it right away. Looks like a new version of the manual, by the way. All right, system select is number 3. And that is the little dial on the back. Well, we just may have to show you the dial if I can't find that. Oh, yeah, here it is. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is the most important part. Now, you probably can't see that very well, but that determines what the resolution and frame rate of the camera are going to be, those little settings, we'll keep that handy because we're going to need that in just a second to set this guy up. So we've got very well packed and well designed packaging, by the way. A little piece of cardboard as a spacer, and then of course we've got some batteries for our remote control. Yes, you have an infrared remote control, and then we've got a power cord, and we might need that. But you know, all the new Gen 2 cameras are coming in. Let's adjust that just a little bit. They're coming in with PoE built in. So all you have to do is plug in that Ethernet cable. Oh, really cool remote control. Again, infrared, and you've got to be in front of the camera in order to use this. You can't be behind the camera, and I'm not quite sure how far under the camera you can be. This is a serial. Do you recognize this? Let's see if Mike Latta can recognize this, because this would be back in his day. This is one of those dinosaur connections right here. Let's see. See if he can recognize that right there. Yes, that is an RS-232. Do you remember having to set up a serial printer using the RS-232 connection? And you had to, I can remember taking these cables apart and jumping the cables apart to make the doggone printers work because the cables were all configured differently. Anyway, this plugs into the back of the camera, and this plugs into the PC, and it gives you control. Or this may plug into a special controller. We'll have to see if we've got one of those. So, and then we've got the other part of the power connector, the little brick part. There we go. A nice piece of foam that keeps everything set. And we're going to pull that foam out, and you can see it's got a cutout shaped just for the camera. So this camera is traveling surrounded by foam. Now keep in mind this camera has traveled from the other side of the world, and then it's traveled to Pennsylvania, and then it's traveled to Alabama. And it is in pristine condition. This is the way you want everything. So we're going to bring it all out in its foam, and that's all there is. There are no other goodies in the box. There are no t-shirts or mouse pads or pens or anything like that. Maybe PTZ Optics ought to do a little something like that. What do you think? So we've got this great piece of foam, and you can see it's just foam. We're going to wiggle the camera out. You know, this is the very first unboxing I've ever done. I'm kind of excited about it. I used to think they were pretty hokey until I slept late and had to have a run to the studio to be on time. Okay, so we're now out of the package. And you know, the air in here was Chinese air. Can you believe that? Better not be breathing that stuff, probably full of lead. All right, so here's our little cam. Now it's come in with a lens cap. And let me put a question to the chat room. What's the first thing we do at this point? Yes, if you want to see video, you take off the lens cap. But save this. In fact, save everything, because you never know when you want to loan this to somebody. And if you do loan it to them, you want to make sure that you loan it to them with all the stuff, including the lens cap. And you write down on all this stuff. Save. If you loan out your stuff, make sure you write save this material on it so that they save it and send it back to you. Okay, so we've got this guy, and he's very flexible from the very beginning, and we'll power him on in just a second, and you can see what power on looks like. But this is the important part of this little camera right here, and you can see it has got almost every connection known to man. In the top left corner, it's got a line in, and that's for a microphone. So you can actually hook up a mic to this guy. Right next to that is a jack for composite output. Right below that is the RJ45 connector for Ethernet. Next to that is the HDMI output. Next to that, the big silver one, is the SDI output. Next to that is a USB. That is not output. That is for access to the camera. Frankly, I've never used it. Next to that is the DC power input, and then the switch. Above that, you see the two big silver squares with the black circles inside of them. That's the control. I showed you the RS-232 cable just a minute ago. Actually, these guys actually daisy chain, so you go from camera to camera to camera if you want to use the 232 control. The little green jack there, right there, is for a different type of control. And then the most important one of all, our little dial. Let's see if I can get in real close on that one. That is the system select. And you can see the little yellow arrow in the middle of the yellow circle. And then around that are letters and numbers that indicate what the camera is going to send in terms of video. And so I've got, and I'm just going to rest it down here in the PTZ Optics approved position that allows you to change this. And so we've got 0 through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are all the options. Not all of those are filled out in the manual, but we've got a choice of 1080p 60. Wow. 1080p 50, so you know right now this is a PAL camera as well. 1080i 60, 1080i 50, 720p 60, 720p 50, 1080p 30, 1080p 25, 720p 30, 720p 25, and then a couple of blanks, and then we get down to 576i and 480i. Not going to ever be using those. What's notable is we don't have any 2997s or 5994s here. These are all even frame rates. So let's go ahead and set this guy up. If we're going to use him here in my studio, we're going to use him at 1080p 30. If I were tempted to use this in a sports arena, of course I would set it for 1080p 60. But let's find something that we can change it with here. Can we does Giles have any tools on him that we could use to change it with? No, Giles doesn't have any
nothing
tools.
that I can send you, I'm afraid.
No. And let's see if the vMix Banana Man, can we use the vMix Banana Man to change him? No, that's not going to work. Can we use the PTZ Optics Man? Perhaps the PTZ Optics Man will let us change him. You know, here he is. The guy is playing with toys on Saturday morning. This is too fun. All right, let's pull out the old handy razor knife, which functions as a screwdriver in a pinch. And so we want to go to 1080p 30. So we're going to set that little dial. You can hear it click to number 6. That's going to be 1080p 30, and that's where it's going to stay. Now, I suppose you guys actually want to see this work. So let's see if we can bring in some power and some video cables. We don't need the remote, so we'll set that aside. We don't need the control cable, so we'll set that aside. We don't need the lens cap. We'll set that aside. We don't need the batteries. We do need the power brick and the power cord, and I've got a SDI cable over there we'll plug in. So let's pull this out. I mean, this is a bona fide real unboxing because it's never been. I mean, the last people to touch this little twist tie did not speak English. So they also just do these things in a way that they don't ever come out easily. Look at that.
You can't be sure of that, son.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to plug this guy in the back into the DC connection. And just for safety, we're just going to turn it off for the moment. And then we're going to plug this guy. Well, let's go ahead and undo the Chinese twist here. And we'll get that guy open. There we go. And get him plugged in. And then we've got a power strip on the other side of the desk and an SDI cable on the other side of the desk. So sit tight, don't go anywhere. I'm just going to walk around the desk and I'll be right back. Take out my earbuds here. See my $9.99 earbuds from Walmart. That's the fancy stuff that we use here at Streaming Idiots. All right, hold on, don't go away. And yes, short pants. All right, walking around behind, trying to find where we can plug in. find an open plug here somewhere. Do you ever have the problem where you can't find an open plug here somewhere? And you have to unplug something else and hope it wasn't something you were using. Okay, so that's power. And then we've got a handy dandy SDI cable here that we were using on our Marshall cam. We just got the Marshall cam a week ago and just got a new lens for it yesterday. There's the cable flopping in. And we'll get that Marshall cam dialed in here in the next week or so, and we can show you how we're doing all that. And let's see if we can't zoom in just a tad here. There we go. All right, so we've got SDI. We're going to get Giles out of the way for a second. We're going to get Banana Man and Streaming Idiot Man out of the way and make our connection here. And if everything goes well, when we hit the switch, it's going to do the setup. Whew, boy, that was a half a second there where I wasn't sure what was going to happen. There we go. All right. All right. So now let's see if we can, and this SDI cable is connected to a Blackmagic DeckLink mini recorder PCIe card that's in my production PC. So let's go ahead and add an input in vMix for a camera, and we'll select the mini recorder. We've set this camera up to be 1920 by 1080, 30 frames a second. So let's see if that'll be our first choice and see what we get there. And sure enough, that's what we get. We get a camera image. Let's go ahead and show you the camera image. There it is, right there. Now, we have no way to control that camera. We can use the remote control, or we can hook a LAN cable up to it and control it through vMix. Let's see. Martin, how are we doing on time here? I don't remember how much time I've got for this slot. Was it 30 minutes or an hour, including questions?
It's an hour, including questions,
Tom. Put my earbuds in to hear your answer. Here we go.
Yeah, it's an hour, including questions, Tom, and there's about sort of 22, 23 minutes left to the end of the question. So, yeah, just fill the slot up as you wish. Okay.
All right. Well, let's take a pause at this second while I load the remote control up with batteries and see if we've got any questions in chat. Looks like Dan Slider is trying to give me a lesson on time zones. And that's all. I don't see anything there in his chat, in your chat room. Let's look in the Streaming Idiots chat. And Rich Ignacio says, is this live or is this Memorex? Apparently Rich is living in the same world that Mike Latto lives in, which is that ancient world where time stands still. Yeah, this is live, Rich. This is live. As those of you know, that Rich is the jet ski streaming guy, and he flies all over the U.S. Streaming jet ski racing. All right, so it's as easy as putting the batteries in the correct way. And if I've done this correctly, let's see if we can, just without doing anything else, let's just see if that works. Hey, look at there. First time out of the box, it works. You can see my light stand, look at that. And the fancy $29 lighting that we use here at Streaming Idiots. Oh, this is a different control. Wow. this control, and let's pull out the old control. Do we see the old control here? Yeah, here it is. You can see the Gen 1 control is about probably 20% larger. The buttons are, the new control is just more compact. It's skinnier, it's shorter, weighs about the same, and has a bunch of buttons on here. Holy cow. We'll have to experiment with that. It's got F keys on it. Well, the old one had F keys too, but it's got a zoom. It's got a slow zoom and a fast zoom button. That's nice. So if you're controlling it here, and then it's got the ability to set presets, and then of course all your pan tilt functions, as well as if I hit the menu button, I don't think you'll see. Oh yes, look at that. It's sending the menu over SDI. It didn't ever used to do that. So now we've got the ability to set color, image, the PTZ, noise reduction. Oh, look at all that stuff. And we'll hit menu again for exit. How about that? That's cool. Now, one of the things that this camera is supposed to be able to do, and it's really funny. Oh, you know what? Does the old controller, does the new controller control the old camera? Ah, look at that. Okay, so we've got two cameras that either control will control. Let's see if the old control controls the new camera. It does. Look at there. So we're backwards compatible. Okay. Interesting. Supposedly, and we'll get our shot trimmed back up right here. Martin K doesn't like it if I don't have if I have too much white space up there. Supposedly, this new camera is supposed to have a lower latency over IP than the previous Gen 2 versions. In Gen 1, and I think the early Gen 2 versions, the latency over IP was about 300 milliseconds. So if you were dealing with audio that wasn't coming out of the camera, that was generated through a mixer or a USB mic or something like that, then you would expect that you were going to have to adjust your audio to compensate for that. And 300 milliseconds was about the number. I had some folks that were using this camera on a network. They were sharing with other things, and they had to, because of all the network traffic, they had to delay the audio 600 milliseconds. So obviously it's going to depend on your use case. But we'll be testing this one later today or tomorrow. I don't want to try to set it up now because obviously you've got to set an IP address for it and those kinds of things. But it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if this guy has that ability to have reduced latency. The other thing that this guy will do, I think, and I'll have to confirm it, is that this guy will be upgradable to NDI as a firmware upgrade. So that's going to be pretty cool. So we can take out the SDI cable, we can take out the power cable, and we can plug in just Ethernet here with PoE and have this appear on your network as an NDI source, be powered, and can be controlled through either your IP controller, if you have one, through some IP software, or through vMix's IP control of this particular camera. So very versatile camera. The retail on this guy is $17.99. The MAP pricing, that is the pricing that PTZ Optics allows dealers like me to advertise it at, is $16.99. But frequently we will bundle this with vMix software, or we'll bundle this with one of our live streaming gear PCs, and so there's kind of a bundling savings, which we are not allowed to identify like this, but we can quote you personally when the time comes. So let's check and see if we've got any questions here. We'll look in the chat. Paul has got, oh, let's see. Dan says, is this a Gen 2 camera NDI? This is not the NDI version. The NDI version has not been released yet. They've announced it. We're expecting to have it available the end of August or the beginning of September. It just sort of depends on when they are comfortable getting it out there to the general public. Let's bring me back in right there. There we go. Boy, I was feeling left out. But my understanding is that this camera will be upgradable to NDI as a firmware update. The retail on that is $600, but I understand if you purchase that now or close to now, you can buy it for 50% off $300. So it makes it a pretty good deal. That is a $1,700 camera with a $300 NDI upgrade becomes a $2,000 NDI HD camera. Not a bad deal, I think. Paul D. from UK says, can you select which camera to control with the remote control if you have more than one camera? Paul, if we're talking about this remote control, it doesn't, I don't know. How about that? I don't know. It does have a, let's switch to this cam for just a second. We're going to put this cam up there in the multi-view so that you guys can see it better. That's the old control. The new control does have a series of camera buttons here. So my guess is that you can go through an identification process, and then that allows you to do presets. Frankly, I don't ever use the remote control. Number one, you've got to be directly in front of the camera to use it. If you've got the camera mounted on the ceiling, upside down, pointed somewhere, you're going to have to get on a scaffolding to use this. It would be much better to use the IP control. But you would have to, of course, have Ethernet plugged into it. But I really do think Ethernet is the way to go. So yes, I think there's a way to set this up so that it controls separate cameras using the keypad here. But so far as and also so far as the presets are concerned. David says, Tom, how would you control this camera to change shots if you had it over 100 feet away as your crowd camera? I'm not familiar with the RS-232 cable links. David, 100 feet away, I would have this camera powered over Ethernet, and I would be receiving the video over Ethernet, and that would give me the ability to control the camera over Ethernet. And I think, especially in a pre-wired crowd situation, to have one cable that you need to run, and that would be just Cat 5, Cat 5e, Cat 6. That's going to be the real benefit. There is one cable, and in fact, wait, there's more. This afternoon, when we have Howard on to talk about the wireless control, I didn't mention it earlier, but oh heck, wait a second, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Why talk about it when you can show it, right? All right. Now you guys are not allowed to make fun of my bag. This bag right here was a gift from my spouse. And you say, yes, that's right. But it's the contents of the bag that are important. To heck with what the bag looks like. Hold on. We're all twisted up here. We're just having fun, like Saturday morning watching cartoons. All right, inside the bag, among other things, is a battery pack. And also with the battery pack is the ability to connect to just about anything known to man. And this battery should be charged up, and I think there's a connector in here that will connect to this camera. I'll have this set up so that this afternoon we'll use this camera and illustrate how the camera can actually be battery powered and send its video wirelessly and be controlled wirelessly. So the whole PTZ camera, its complete PTZ function and it's sending in a video and its power can all happen without anything being attached to it other than just the devices that we would see here: a battery, a radio transmitter. It's really going to be kind of cool. Let's see. Rudy is answering Paul's question there, so we're looking back through the questions. Rudy says you have to push some knobs in a certain sequence to pair the cameras with the remote. Yeah, but who wants to go to all the trouble of doing that? Yeah, you could do that, but I guess there would be situations where you would need, or you would want to be able to control it with a remote control, but I just can't imagine those situations. I would much rather control it with vMix, and that way I'm doing everything within the same software. Okay, let's take a look over at the Streaming Idiots chat room and see if we have any questions over there. Is it live or is it Memorex? We've already answered that one. Kenny says, to have vMix control PTZ, is this done via IP address brought into vMix? Yes. Yes, it is. And unfortunately, this camera is not hooked up to IP. Oh, well, actually, my other camera is. So let me capture a screenshot of the vMix desktop here. And let's see if we can't show you. Yeah, here we go. All right, so this is the desktop. Pay no attention to the window on the right that goes off to infinity. But I can, let's see, let's add, let's see if we can do this. Let's add an input. It's a stream. No, I think I have to change the address on this camera. I don't think that IP address exists. Nope. Nope, it doesn't exist. So we have we've asked the PC to go find an IP address that doesn't exist. It's going to take a second for it to come back and say, yeah, sorry, there's nothing there, Tom, you're an idiot. We already knew that. Okay, well, maybe this afternoon we'll have a chance to set up the new camera with an IP address on this network here and show you how we can control that. It's really a lot of fun. Erwin C says, can we program the camera to do a specific sweep just like the weather cams do? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that one, by a specific sweep. I know you can, in vMix, and again, this camera's not set up in vMix, you can tell it to have a preset that would be, let's see, let's go back to the cam. So we're going to have a preset that's set right here, and then we would have a second preset that's set right here. And if you moved from preset to preset, then you would get, whoops, I'm controlling both cameras unintentionally. If you move from preset to preset, then you would get that sweep. And the preset could be done with the remote control and could be done also with the, with what would it be? It would be the IP controller in vMix.
Yeah, it's more like that it goes from left to right, up and down, following a specific pattern all the time, round and round, without doing anything.
In that case, you would probably use a combination of, let's see if we can switch back to a shot that, oh my goodness gracious, look at that shot. That's that's not the shot we want. In that case, you would have a combination of presets, and then you would put the presets into a playlist, and then use the playlist to control the shots. I think that would be how you would want to go about doing that. So it would be, it wouldn't necessarily be a one button click to do that, but it would have to be a series of presets in vMix to do that. All right, Paul says, can you select which camera to control with the remote control if you have more than one camera? Paul, I have no clue. Obviously here, I'm having a little trouble with that. What I did find is that the old remote controls both cameras. The new remote controls the pan tilt but does not control the zoom in the old camera. So they've made a change there. So it's not a complete legacy support with that one. Kenny says, Tom, I see the cam has audio input as well. I would really enjoy seeing a demo on that as well. Well, you'll just have to buy one. I mean, come on, Kenny, I can't do everything for you. I'm teasing. Actually, no, my very first video on the PTZ cameras, which was probably 2 years ago or so, we set that up. And we set it up because we wanted to see if that 300 millisecond delay in the video, if the audio would be delayed by the same amount. And I think what we found out is that the audio wasn't carried over Ethernet, but it was carried over HDMI or SDI. And at that point, we just sort of stopped testing, didn't go any further because frankly, I don't want to run my audio through the camera. But if you've got a scenario where you would have to do that, yeah, we can set up a demo and do that and see. Kenny says, I do not think it will do a slow pan automatically. What does automatically mean anymore? Automatically means that we have told something to do something and it does it all by itself. Well, we can set it up to do a slow pan using a combination of presets in vMix and the playlist, which would be either a looping playlist that goes from preset 1 to preset 2 and then back and then forth and back and then forth, or we can just have it hit a series of 2 or 3 presets and then stop. So there are ways to automatically set it up to do that, but you're still going to have to initiate it. Let's see. Dan Slider says vMix also allows you to memorize camera positions. Yes, you would basically you add a camera shot within the PTZ control, and so you have if you have six shots, you essentially have 6 camera inputs, and you treat each one like a camera. Paul D, you have to push some knobs in a certain sequence to pair the cameras with the remote. That was Rudy. Dave says a slow pan would be a sweep. Well, you guys are using all these video terms that are way above my head. And David said that's how with 2 presets. Okay, very good. Gavin says some PTZ cameras can be set to patrol mode. They auto pan tilt zoom on a set pattern which repeats. And that would be a cam that's used for security functions. Yes, a CCTV application, those kinds of things. Security cams, traffic cams. That's not going to be this cam. This cam is intended for a broadcast environment or like a boardroom, conference room type environment. Oh golly, I've been warned in the chat room that I have 3 minutes left. Or else this giant hook is going to come out. This virtual hook is going to come out and get me. Let's see if there are any other questions. Jan Janssen says, is the video latency with RTSP a lot bigger than SDI? The SDI latency is maybe 10 milliseconds, maybe 20. The RTSP latency latency in the camera I'm using right now, which is Gen 1, was about 300 milliseconds to live. And the word on the street is that this new, not the word on the street, frankly, but the word from Paul Richards of PTZ Optics is that this new camera has less latency over IP than the older versions. And to quote him, he said, it rivals SDI. And I haven't tested that. That's the whole reason I got this new demo camera, is so that we could test that and find out. And take the camera apart, put it back together, do all the kinds of things to become ultimately familiar with it. Here comes the hook. Okay, let's see if I can bring up my my Zoom room so I can see if I'm fixing to get hooked. Any more questions for anybody? If not, before you hook me, let's close out this show the right way. So shall we close out this show the right way? Here we go.
Thanks, Tom.